Hey, today we are taking notes, slope from a graph. So how do we find the slope of a linear equation from a graph? That is our essential question. How do I find the slope of a linear equation? Notice the word line in there. From a graph. So that's what we're focused on today. So this should be a review. So slope is how steep a line is. It is a ratio, which is a fancy word for a fraction. It is also called a gradient, and we use the letter M to represent slope. We first talk about slope as the idea of rise over run. So rise generally goes up, and run generally goes to the right or sideways. We call that vertical distance and horizontal distance. And that's how we measure how steep a line is versus the change in those two things. Sometimes you will see it as delta y over delta x because the y coordinates are vertical and the x coordinates are horizontal. This triangle, I called it a delta, means change or difference. So when we're talking about slope, there are four kinds or directions of slope. There is positive slope, actually I'm not going to write the word slope. There is negative slope, and when we talk about them, positive, it rises from left to right, and when you think about the direction that we read from left to right, so that's how we read graphs. So as I move to the right, that line is going up, and as I move to the right here, those lines are going down. These are special cases. This is zero slope, and this is undefined slope. These are called y equals a number, and these are x equals a number. So one of the ways that you can think about slope is that this is positive and this is negative, undefined, and zero. So I can make a little dude. And I can also do it the other way. That's negative slope. Sorry, let me do that again. I did that backwards. Negative slope and positive slope, still with an undefined nose and a mouth. So either your slope dude is sad or angry, but it'll help you to remember negative, positive, undefined for his nose, and zero slope for his mouth. All right, so we're looking at a graph. So after we determine the sign or the type of slope that it is, then we have to be able to figure out if it has a number. So we start by counting. So we choose 2 points on a line. When you say points, they are at the intersection of grid lines, like these two right here. So rise, remember that rise is up, so that's a 3. And the run is measured from here to here. So we go over 5 and up 3. So our run is 5. So when we write the ratio, that is 3 over 5. Simplify all the time if you can. As you're doing the rise, just remember that on a graph, that this is positive and this way is negative. Then we have the graph this way. This is positive and this is negative. So it's the same thing when you're doing positive and negative numbers on a number line. Just up and down. Up is positive, down is negative. Right is positive, left is negative. All right, so when you're given a graph, like we are in these next 4 examples, we just count. So I'm going to pick a spot here because I can see that it intersects, and this one doesn't intersect, but this one does. So then I'm going to draw my triangle to indicate, and from here to here is 4, and I'm going right, correct? This is right, but then it's down 2. So that's negative. So then when you write slope, anytime that you're asked to write slope, you write m equals all the time. And that's negative 2 over 4, which is negative 1/2. And this would be your final answer. If you give me this one, you won't get full marks because you didn't simplify the fraction. So then we look at number 2. And we mark 2 points. So we can still use the slope formula. M equals my rise. How far up do I go from here to here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 up. But do I go over at all? No. And anything divided by 0 is undefined. It would be better if you could remember that it was the nose, but you can also remember it mathematically. So let's look at number 3. Again, pick points. See how there's a point here and a point here, but these other places don't intersect at the corner. So then I'm going to draw my triangle. And this goes right 1, but then I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope, which is the change in y, really, that's our up and down, right? And the change in x is negative 4 over 1, which is negative 4. The last one is a bigger slope. So I start down here because I can see that it marks right here. But as I count up, like that one doesn't quite go through the intersection right there, so I have to keep going. Again, not quite. I have to go all the way up here. Sometimes you're going to have to go a long way to be able to count your slope. So then I'm going to draw my triangle. So this is 3 this way, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8. So then m equals change in y over change in x. Y is 8 over 3, and that cannot be simplified. So the last part of this is for you on your note page, is for you to be able to write down the steps that you need to do to be able to solve the problems as we take notes. All of our note pages will look like this. And so I'm going to walk you through this one part. So what's the first thing that I did as I was doing these? I chose 2 points. So we choose 2 points on the line. Then we find the rise, because that's the number on top. And then the third one is to find the run, and that's horizontal. And fourth is to spell right correctly, write a ratio, making sure that we simplify. And that is how we find slope from a graph.